welcome to the Leadership Corner. This is going to be quite interactive. So I have I'll give you the lay of the land here. I have a list of some topics that I'll throw out there to kick it off, Jim. And by the way, great to virtually finally meet and get to connect. I noticed that we had something in common earlier when you were talking about running into new verticals and new opportunities through COVID. Here at Aircall, we've as I said before, we've seen something very similar. And what we did is in March is when we saw all of this inbound activity of these new verticals coming to us that we never normally would have sold to. And we had to figure out, we had to decide, do we even want to sell to them? Is this going to be sustainable business? Is this risky business? Are they going to just cancel when they go back to the office? And all of those risks are potential. And some of them even said, this is temporary. We don't need this for the long term. And so, we had discussions at the leadership level of, do we want to sign these folks up knowing that they are going to churn when they're basically telling us that? And the decision was, yes, we want to, because they need our help and we want to help them. And we're treating those accounts differently. We're paying extra close attention to them. And of course, trying to find ways to prove the long-term value to them and hope that they will stay. But what I want to ask you about is was it similar? Did you notice that it was coming inbound to you first? And that's when you were like, wow, this is interesting. And then if so, how did you respond to that? And did you create an outbound process going into April? That's what we did here. We kind of called it our COVID ICP. And we created a whole process to try to go after what we were seeing inbound on the outbound. Curious to get your thoughts on that.
Exactly. What's happening to us right now is we're reacting to what's coming in the funnel. I also wanted to address, because I think you said something that was really important, which was, you looked at the prospects from a perspective of, should we take them on because it's the right thing to do? And one thing that PandaDoc did at the onset of this that I was really proud to be affiliated with was we actually released our product to the market for free. We created very quickly, within days, we created a free offering that we could bring forward to the market because we knew that they were going to need this.
Yeah.
There was that sort of selfless angle of what's the right thing to do, and let's do that first.
Yes.
Then let's figure out how to monetize it. And so we are actually in the process of taking all that inbound, because it was kind of amazing how much came in as quickly as it did.
Yeah.
And parsing it up so we can figure out what.
And was that March? Did that start at the beginning of March for you?
It did. It really it blew up right there in that first week of March. Even as we were still trying to figure out who's going remote and when, the funnel was just swelling. And now we are activating with both a marketing and an outbound strategy around those key verticals that have swollen up. But it's been interesting. It's been this exciting sort of. We didn't know this was coming, but we got it. We got a hit.
Yeah, it's. I always feel guilty when I say that, right? Because it's like, am I supposed to be excited during this awful time? But like I said earlier, you got to focus on the bright side, right? And at least there's something for us to be challenged with.
Hey, Collin, right? This is the Leadership Corner, and
it's
the hardest times to lead are these times, right? So
yeah,
I'd say for all of us that are in here and listening, is this is our moment, right? So if you're in here and you're curious about leadership, or if you're already in leadership, they're expecting us to raise our bar. And so that's the pressure we feel, right? Is we've got to rise to the moment in brand new ways. In the networking just a moment ago, I met a gentleman named John, and he shared something that he did that it's like, wow, that's brilliant. I thought I'd share it here. Is he just went out and bought Amazon gift cards and just literally gave them out to his team to say, I know it's only $25 or $50, I think he said, but I feel like you need this right now. And he was just kind of blown away by their reactions too. And I just thought it was really smart just to put some money in people's hands right away. That was a unique tip.
Yeah. It has to be a selfless time, right? I think what was really interesting is the way that everyone reacted. We came up with this. We're like, all right, how do we change our outreach? What are we going to do? And I'm rewinding back to March, right? Going into this month, and we're like, we have to lead with empathy, right? And it was amazing to just see how everyone did it, right? Everyone got on that bandwagon real fast. We're here to help is the opener to every single marketing email, everyone's cadence now. And, you know, we got towards the end of March, like, we got to get more creative now, because now everyone's inbox is filled with "we're here to help," and it's kind of been played out. Corporate Bro had a hysterical video yesterday about all of the phone calls kicking it off with, "Yeah, trying times, hope you're doing well, hope you're healthy," like, and it's just, you know, it's like at a certain point it becomes fluff, but you have to keep
right, Collin. I mean, every email for that first couple of weeks was, you know, we're together, right? Or
we're in this together. Yeah.
Oh, we are, you know, and I think
yeah,
I'm most interested to see what's going to happen next, right? Are we going to maintain this level of togetherness? Are we going to take this opportunity to sell in new ways? Or do we all just retreat and go right back to what we were doing, which I candidly hope doesn't happen? Because
what do you think?
I think that businesses like PandaDoc that are in the SaaS space are being afforded an opportunity to reevaluate the entire stack and how we want to go to market. And I think we're going to take advantage of it. Other businesses are going to be slower to react, and they'll likely go right back to what they were doing. I think it just really matters, you know, again, topically, who their leaders are. I know our CEO sees this as, you know, it's known. It's known that we're going to be dealing with this again, is his point, right? So maybe this is today's pandemic, but whether the next one is a weather event or another virus event, or, you know, whatever it might be, this is at least preparing us with the tools we need to act differently, because we do need to act differently.
Yeah, I think the size of the company probably has something to do with it too, right? Because the very massive companies, they have a huge disadvantage right now. It's hard to pivot, it's hard to move fast, and it's hard to, when things do go back to normal, to try to make that stick, because there's so much red tape. And so I think for companies like ours, this has changed us forever, right? And you think about traumatic events in your life, you know, a tragedy lost in the family or something, it always changes the family forever, right? It brings you closer together. 9/11 changed this country forever. This will, without a doubt, change us forever, and I think for the better. So good stuff. All right, Carly, why don't we throw in our first video question? Do we have one ready? Here we go.
Hey.
Hello, Luke.
Hey.
Can you start, Luke, with just a quick introduction and then jump into your question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Really appreciated the invite when I saw it. I'm an SDR manager for a company called Redpoints. We're a Spanish-based startup, but we do have offices in New York and Utah. We're a SaaS company that sells a brand protection technology that takes away counterfeits online on any type of platform.
Very cool.
Counterfeit currency?
What, sorry?
You said it's a fraud protection?
Yeah, we do brand protection. So we have a technology that can cut down counterfeits automatically with the platform. We also have seller tracking that can track, for example, if you're Nike and you see in some countries they're selling it for the wrong price that your marketing team wanted, we can track that down and notify.
Oh, cool.
And we also have an anti-piracy platform, so we can take down when Disney put out a different movie. We've had clients where we can take down those sort of counterfeit links or pirated links where they say, okay, during the time that this movie is released, we don't want any links to exist, and we can take those down as well with technology. So I run the SDR team here in Europe, and also influence globally as well. We're quite a new startup. We've had a lot of funding over the last few years, but with the situation, it's gone down to the crunch times. So we've gone from being very, very lucky with a load of money to, oh crap, we need to really care about how this business works. And that's where we're at now. So my question was, so my team just focused on Europe and rest of the world. So we have different countries in Europe where we're seeing this virus affect countries differently. And just to give a positive note, now our best pod is Italy.
That is interesting.
Which is quite weird, right? Because they've probably been hit the worst of anywhere in the world, apart from China, perhaps.
Yeah.
And suddenly we're seeing this uprise in Italy in terms of people getting comfortable with the situation and starting to speak again after getting used to being at home. And I think, and then we have other countries that we see which goes, like UK at the moment is our worst. So we saw Italy being the worst pod 3 weeks ago, and now UK is, and it just keeps changing depending on where the virus is going.
That's right.
So we're looking at options to look kind of country by country and where to focus at the moment, and potentially look at pivoting. And we don't know if it's a good idea or not. And I'm wondering for USA, because you have different states that are affected differently, that in both your companies, you might be looking at, let's focus on one state now and then see where it goes into another state. And do you think it would be a good strategy to pivot basically their markets? So let's say UK is really bad right now. Would you say it's worth pivoting some SDRs and AEs portfolio to another market for 2 or 3 weeks and then pivot back when it gets better? Or do you think it's better to just wait it out and have everybody working on the same market they have done, but perhaps lose the opportunity of markets that are recovering?
It's a great question. So
makes sense. It's kind of a long-winded question.
No, I follow you. So your question is, there's obviously a change of landscape across the globe, across nations, regions, states, cities, etc. Things are just different in each of them, given the timing of how the virus is spreading and how folks are recovering. So we did, and should you change your outbound approach in that regard? So we talked a lot about this actually, because our thought was in March when we saw this big wave of inbound leads that those were the cities that were adapting to remote work faster. And then we're saying, all right, in April, we're probably going to get the flyover states in the center of the country that are maybe moving a little bit slower. And should we change our outbound strategy? And we thought through it briefly, but we quickly decided no. And the reason we decided no was that you should be playing the long game on outbound anyway.
That's right.
And to make that type of a very quick change and then potentially change it again 2 weeks later, didn't see a lot of upside there. Didn't feel like we had enough proof or evidence that would make a difference. Now, for you talking about different countries, I could see maybe pulling a little bit of attention away from somewhere that's having trouble.
And what I'm going to say, Collin, is I almost, if you're going cross country there, my one recommendation would be you could always expand territories. Around the event, right? You can say, hey, due to COVID, we're going to expand territories, enabling folks to play in larger pools than they maybe traditionally have been. Then if you need to tweak territories at some point, that's a regular exercise anyway. But I don't think you should do wholesale pivots, to Collin's point, because so much is unstable right now. You probably will be pivoting back. And the more changes you put a seller or an SDR, anybody through, the more you're hitting their sort of anxiety centers. And so I would steer clear of that if you can. Remember that the work that they're doing today, depending on your business, doesn't pay off tomorrow, right? It pays off weeks down the road. So if you make the wrong decision today, you're just setting yourself up for a problem later. And so I think unless you have a dire need or reason to make a sudden change, then try to continue playing the game that you know has always worked.
Okay, no, that's great.
All right.
Yeah, what I've been telling teams is, if you keep hitting up that market, at least if you keep doing it equally, we'll be the first to know when the market stabilizes. So you're going to get a lot of sort of terrible news, but if you keep doing it, we're going to be the first to know when it's good. But I don't know. Yeah. But no, great advice. Thank you, guys.
Good question. Thanks for joining us.
We have different teams for Aircall in Paris that cover different countries, and so there's been a lot of talk about that. But it's challenging because each team speaks a different language, right? They're broken up by language, and so they can't necessarily even make those types of pivots. Carly, do we have another question in the queue here? And just a quick time check, Carly, if you can remind me what time this session ends as well. No video questions at the moment. All right, next topic then that I want to dive into. So I have a few high-level. Oh, Kara Feldman. Oh, is that the Kara Feldman? It is the Kara Feldman.
Hello.
Tara and I worked together at my first software company, Single Platform.
Yes.
I believe I trained you,
Yep.
right? Yeah. And you have since moved on to be a big shot sales leader with a big exit under your belt. If I remember correctly, your
correct.
company was sold to American Express, which is huge. I'm still waiting for an exit like that to come under my belt. So well done.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining. What can we
Cool.
want to do?
That was a really nice introduction. But I thought I would ask a question in terms of, obviously, a lot of leadership is dealing with a lot of uncertainty right now, and hospitality space, so there's a lot of uncertainty. But more so, sales reps are used to having specific goals and feeling that they can accomplish it, and they know when that task is going to end, and they know exactly what they can do to control that.
Yeah.
And if you look at the polls, any organization, it's great that some companies are in a really good position to kind of take advantage of the market, but the majority of businesses are not. And so a lot of companies, if you do still have your job, you're working on more so Salesforce cleanup projects, strategy projects, enablement, things that don't have end dates, things that aren't the same mindset that a seller typically lives in. So I thought it would be interesting to hear your perspective on what are different ways that you can help coach to think about that shift in perspective. And if you're seeing internally, I think it's a coaching moment, and it's a good way to, up level everyone's skill set. But it's also hard to motivate people that it's not that immediate reward, and that there's no end to the project. So just seeing if that's something that you guys have faced along with selling, and how you would really motivate that shift in mindset.
That's great.
You want to go first, Jim?
Sure, absolutely. So what I love about this question, Kara, is that I feel like so much of leadership, especially in the sales realm, is really knowing what is motivating your team from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m., right? Because if you understand what they're going to do with all that commission and all that success, then at times like this, you're not as hampered to lean in and sort of say things like, for example, I know for a lot of my team members that have small children, one of the things that they struggle with is the morning routine. Mm-hmm. And so right now, I'm sort of able to say, listen, you've got this opportunity while we're remote to really work on that family morning routine so that when we come out of it, you're really well equipped to kind of get yourself back into a healthy routine there so you can hit the ground running faster. So to your point on things like, ancillary Salesforce projects and things like that, a lot of my coaching hasn't really been maybe as it should be, like Jeremy was saying, on skill up and level up. It's been much more about focusing on the person and what can they do to help themselves stay sharp and not get depressed by everything that's going on. Yeah. And really, like, my tips have been, and they're kind of cheesy, like, hey, you've always wanted to clean out that particular closet, fucking clean it up. Excuse my language. Sorry. Clean it up.
No, like, what can you do for yourself in this time?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I would go to sort of two things here. One, I'll bring a throwback quote from Adam Liebman, who was our vice president of sales when we worked together. And he always said, you can't motivate people. You can just create an environment where motivated people can succeed. And I think that applies really well here. And it's on us as leaders. And we talked a bit about this last night with Kevin Dorsey on the similar, almost the same topic. And, people were saying, what about someone asked, if you're used to having a winning sales culture, and now all of a sudden you're in one of the companies that's struggling, how do you keep things alive? And there were two things that we said. KD said, first of all, if your culture is about winning, then you probably don't have the culture you think you had. And what he dug into there got really deep, and he said, like, the culture needs to be about the people, not about the result, right? Because the result won't always be there, and it's really what defines you is how well you get through a loss, right? And so I thought that was really good, but I think this also goes back to two things. One is you need to always focus on what's in your control, right? And so if there's things that you can't control, you can't focus on that. But that's where, to bring it back to leadership here, that is what's on us. That's the burden that we have to figure out when you walk into a hard time and you maybe can't meet the objectives that you initially set out to meet, you have to move the goalpost. You have to redefine what the objective is, whether that means going from saying we need to do $10 million in sales to saying we need to reduce our net churn, right, into negative 15 million. And that's when we're going to celebrate if we only lose 15 million. And you celebrate that, right? And so you have to define what the goal is, and just bring it back to the basics. It needs to be a SMART goal. It needs to be something attainable, and you need to have mini goals along the way and just celebrate those things no matter what they are. And they need to be something that's in your control. And I think that if you do that and apply that to each role and everyone on the team, then you can keep the spirit positive. But, you know, it's tough, and I think there's a level of you just need to be honest with people about that as well. In other words, don't butter it up too much.
Totally. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kara. Great to see you. Good stuff. Carly, what else do we have kicking in the chats here? Question from George Hunter. I think this situation has shed light on a different set of necessary skills for the sales team. In order collectors are needing a shift in creating opportunities. What skills have you seen this situation shed light on for your teams? Do you want to dive into it, Jim?
Sure. One of the skills that we've been spending a lot of time is on objection handling. And I get it, you know, in remote sales, that's a skill we need to have anyway. We've had to completely take a look at our objections that we're used to seeing, though, and re-script around the event that we're all living through. So the most common objection we're getting right now is I'd like to push out due to COVID, right? So we're having to lean in harder there than we're used to, and that's uncomfortable for us. So I think the skill that we're just revisiting, it's not a new skill, is how are we handling rejection and objections? And are we being both thoughtful and selfless in our language, but at the same time, are we staying true to the fact that our profession is sales? And now more than ever, we've got to overcome those objections, right? So if you're going to push me out, I'm going to ask you, I need a specific date. That's okay. You can push out just like everybody else is right now, but I still want to know, is that going to be May 1st or May 2nd that we're talking next? So really lean into that objection handling would be my recommendation.
Sorry. No, it's a good topic. So the number one objection I think that everyone's getting today is very high level, and I just had a sort of a brief AE training earlier where we talked about it, and we're going through our key deals, and I'm asking people where they stand, and it's people are pushing it off. It's uncertain times, and I had to think through that, and the training that I gave to them is, we got 10 minutes left. The training that I gave to them is you need to be comfortable pushing deeper than that, because it's uncertain times is really not an objection, right? It's just a level of discomfort. And for us at Aircall, there's going to be a root cause to why they're saying that. And so what we're training people to do is to dive in deeper and to say, hey, Jim, I completely understand, things have been crazy here, and it can be weird to make any sort of long-term decision right now. Just to try to understand that a little bit deeper, is the concern for you around shelling out a bunch of cash today, right, that maybe you're going to need a few months from now? Or is the concern committing to 20 user licenses right now when maybe your team will be 10 people in 30 days, right? Because those are two very different concerns, and I can provide a solution to both of those that makes you comfortable making the decision today, right? And so again, as leaders, what we've done here at Aircall is we're making different exceptions to how we'll structure deals to help people make a commitment today that they're comfortable with. And so in the past, we would say, hey, in order to get our annual pricing, the best rate you can get, you have to commit annually, pay annually, right? And so now they're like, look, man, my team is 50 people today, but it might be 20 in a couple of months, and I don't know, and I can't make this decision. Jim, I understand. So let me throw this out there and see if this would make you comfortable. What if we were able to say you're going to commit to 15 users annually, and I'll give you the other 25 or the other delta on a month-to-month term, and I'll give it to you at the same rate. So if you need to downsize that account over the next few months, we completely understand you have the flexibility to do it. Does that make you comfortable, getting started today? Oh. And I mean, what you're doing there is you got to find the root cause. People are saying it's uncertain times, but that's not that's not the actual objection, right? That's just the high level, and there's always something beneath the surface. So yeah, just one tactical piece there for y'all. We have 2 questions, right? Okay, who was in here first? I think Keith. Hi, Keith.
Hey, thanks, guys. I really appreciate setting this, all this up. It's been awesome.
No problem.
Kind of quick 2-parter question. I'll try not to jumble it too badly here.
Okay.
But figure for a lot more of the companies out there are not going to be, unfortunately, the in-demand products right now that are like escalating with everything that's going on. So I wanted to hear, like, from other sales leaders' perspectives, how much percentage-wise should goals be getting cut right now? And then how are reps going to be able to kind of balance those short-term goals and trying to hit them versus playing the long game and treating customers the right way and with empathy for the long-term goals as well?
Yeah. So in terms of the goals, I think it's totally depends on the business. I know some companies that are just not changing goals, and their reaction is, I think I can see it both ways. I think that there's some logic to that, which is, look, the company's struggling. We're all going to struggle. We're all going to get through this together. Everyone's got their base salaries, and it's going to be tough, right? Yeah. I could see that being the narrative. I could also see, hey, we're going to make a reforecast. We have a lot of data here that shows we feel confident we can predict what the outcome is going to be, and we're going to tailor some things. The company's cash situation has a lot to do with it. Can they afford that? For many companies, the decision can be around, are we going to lay people off, or are we going to not fire anyone, but everyone's going to earn less money because we want to keep you guys here, right? There's so many different factors to make those decisions, and I think employees just need to be understanding to that, and hopefully that if you're at a good company that they're doing everything they can, but we all have to understand that if the business is struggling, we're going to struggle a bit too. Yeah. So I think I got the first part of your question, but I missed the other ones. Jim, maybe you remember.
No, actually, Keith, could you
I can repeat it. Yeah. I guess the other part of it was helping reps play and balance the short-term goals of like being in a scramble, like, oh crap, what do I do now to hit anywhere near goal, versus playing the long game and what's in the better benefit of the customer at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, to that I would almost play out a hypothetical to them, and I would start working backwards from dates or times that they believe or feel that business might return to normal. So let's say that in their mind right now that's like June, just roughly. Okay, what are you going to do then differently? What would you be doing differently for June that you can't be doing right now in preparation for June becomes my question. Because really, back to Kara's point earlier too about, we're spending a lot of time on things like Salesforce cleanup and whatnot. And that's right. In some cases, this is going to be a prep time. So we better use it to our advantage so that when we are back and able to hit the ground running, that we're not somebody that just wasted these 4 to 6 weeks, not using that time to prepare for it. So that would be my only coaching of, what can I do? That's a controllable where you can pick a time in the future, June 15th, July 1st, and start building a pipe towards trying to execute around that time frame. Outside of that, the only other controllables that Collin mentioned are really around mindset.
Cool. Thanks.
Great Thanks very much, Keith. Good luck out there. We got one more. We got Adam.
Yes.
We've got 5 minutes left. Maybe we can squeeze 2 questions in. Adam, we got you joining now. Let's, for sake of time, we'll try to move fast so we can maybe take one more. But hi, Adam. How are you?
Adam?
Yeah, good, guys. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Very well.
Good stuff. So just to keep it brief, my question was, so I've moved to Spain 5 days before lockdown from London. Happy times. And I moved to Spain to set up my company's first SDR team. Typically for 18 months since we launched, we were doing, the reps were doing full cycle. So now we have 5 territories, and my goal was to build the UK SDR team and kind of have it as a proof of concept for the rest of the business. So if I do well, then they invest in the team here, and we have a centralized team in Spain for the rest of Europe. So it's been a fun experience. I have now a team of 3, and I need to hire another 3 by kind of start of May. So good times. So I've kind of built the training manuals by myself, everything by myself, the onboarding, never managed a team in SaaS ever, like team led, but not properly. So my question is, I've been learning on the fly, but what's your advice of someone that's kind of like hiring a new team and onboarding a new team remotely, an SDR team specifically?
Great question. So a couple of things I would do that I've been doing differently already is I would actually spec out for them in a Google Sheet or Excel file their first 2 weeks to the day. So I'd help them really schedule out their time in the beginning and mirror it after what some of the best folks are doing in their remote posture right now. You mentioned you have 3 resources. Pick whoever's doing the best, emulate their schedule after that person. The other thing I would do is I would do as much of this as possible in those first few weeks as well, right? So just because we're remote doesn't mean we can't put eyes on each other. It doesn't mean we still can't be talking. And I'd say that you need to swarm your brand new resources and make them feel almost like you're not in any way, shape, or form micromanaging, but just that you are omnipresent, that we might be remote, but that does not mean you're inaccessible. And the more that you build up that communication pattern in the beginning, the more it will stick for the long haul. So that'd be my recommendation at the onset of trying to onboard and train remotely.
Because I think that's a good point, because it's also about transitioning after that to get the guys being used to, like, this is how I've managed you for the last 2 months, or this is how we've been working as a team for the last 2 months, how that's going to transition into face-to-face and in the office. Good. Thanks, Jim.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's funny you said not to micromanage. I think micromanaging has a bad stigma.
It does.
And I'm going to go out and disagree a little bit, and I'll tell you why. I think it's actually, especially, I'm assuming you're hiring potentially entry-level SDRs, maybe straight out of school, or very little experience, if that's what we're talking about. Is that, or no?
Yeah, I don't have a set, like, if the people are good and they're happy, I've got, so one of the guys, he's got like 6 months experience, Puerto Rican, Marie, one of the guys like 5-6 years experience. So yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's all over the map. So all right. Well, I'll tell you my thoughts for both really quick because we're running out of time. I think that when people are coming in very early in their careers, they've had very little experience, maybe no experience. I actually think they want to be micromanaged in the very beginning, and maybe you want to change the term to micro-advise or micro-planned. It's right to Jim's point, and I think you kind of said it there too. So I think we're actually saying the same thing. Is you want to detail specifically what they should be doing with every hour of the day and what they should accomplish in that hour, because it's your job to figure that out, right? You are there for that reason to say, this is the best way to do this job. I've been here to test it over and over and to iterate on it. And here's the playbook. And the playbook's not just, hey, here's your monthly quota. You should make this many calls each month. You need to break that down into what do I do from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., and so forth. And if you do that and you really hold them accountable to it, what will happen is, A, they will know what they need to do. And if they're not doing it, you can find specifically where they're falling short and you're able to coach them. But if you just, are very hands off, it's very hard to do that. Where I think that starts to go away, and this is why the stigma of micromanagement is there, because that's important in the early days, because you're molding habits, and it's your job to mold those habits. If you just throw them out there and let them figure it out, 6 months later, they've molded the wrong habits, and it's your fault as a leader. Where I let people stray away from that is when they're crushing it, right? Kevin Dorsey said last night, you never need to micromanage a top performer, right? And that's when those are the people, you don't care how they're spending their day, they're executing. And then you start to look at them to figure, did they take the playbook I wrote and made it better? And how do I iterate that playbook for the next group or everyone else? And so I think you start with the hyper managing, let's call it, whatever you want, hyper planning, you got to find a better term. But I think that's important, and I think they want it and they feel lost without it, especially given all the different tools we're teaching people to use, all that stuff. So I wouldn't be shy to do that. And you can also ask them how they like to be managed. And some people may want more instruction, some people maybe less.
Great advice, guys. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam. Good luck out there. All right, everyone, we are heading back to the sessions tab for closing remarks session. So everyone can click leave and go back into sessions and enter the new group.